Now is the time set for the Budget Committee hearing for final confirmation of the budget. Time is 9:30 on May the 17th, 2023. The meeting is called to order. And note that all three commissioners are here, Commissioner Gordon, Pope, and Mordhurst. Budget Committee member Hartman is here, and I am here, David Johnson. With that, we will turn some time over to our budget officer to go over cost of living and health insurance and his recommendations.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, in your packet is a memo just outlining kind of the current status of cost of living and health insurance that we're going to experience during the upcoming fiscal year. Current CPIW as of April is 4.8% for the West Coast region. AFSCME, Deputy DAs, FAPO, and DSA, all four unions are under contract. The range in COLAs are between 3% and 4%. I believe Deputy DA I believe FAPO and DSA is actually 3% in July and 2% in January. Overall, it's about a fiscal increase of 4%. And then AFSCME is 3%. The Deputy DAs are a straight 4%. And that's what you have union-wise. We have yet to determine the non-rep COLAs for the upcoming year. Elected officials are already incorporated into the tentatively approved budget. You can see down below is our insurance. Anticipated that the Kaiser Permanente plan that the county has is going to go up approximately 9%. And then the Pacific Source plan is supposed to go up about 4% or 1%. So overall, I think 2/3 of the county is Kaiser and 1/3 is Pacific Source. So you blend them all together, it's going to be about a 6% increase. So I tend to budget about 5%. So it's within the natural budgeting error. We also have people that opt out of insurance, which then lowers the amount of contribution that the county makes for that. And then PERS, this is the year for PERS. We already discussed it in the previous budget hearings, but our rate for the next 2 years went up 1.4%. That is unusually low. It normally ranges between 4% and 4.5%. They had good returns during the assessment years for PERS, so they didn't keep it at that 4.5% range. They lowered it down to the 1.4 approximately, based on the good returns. When they have bad returns, though, they don't jack it up above the 4% and 4.5%. So they just kick the can down the road and make it longer for increases. But that's a little editorializing on my behalf of PERS and my frustration with them over the years, but it is what it is. And it's something that we are stuck to be in for eternity, unless there's some change in law. With that said, what is before you today is the formal approval of the budget. I really only made one modification. If you remember, we discussed creating a PERS reserve fund. And what that did is I calculated a 2%, a 2.5%, and a 3% surcharge for PERS to put into a dedicated fund. To then 2 years later, out of that fund, backfill departments for the increase in PERS costs. It ended up being 2.5% was the magic number that we probably need to address the future PERS increases. So I applied a 2.5% to all departments that have personnel in those departments. Some don't, So they aren't affected. Others I took care of within the fund by adjusting other expenses within the fund or modifying certain revenues. The big impacts were for the general fund, almost $300,000 was the PERS hit. What I did was take that out of contingency. You can see all the departments on page 3 that are affected and how they're affected. And then there was one that required an additional transfer in juvenile going from 755 to 765, $10,000. Public Works is another department that got hit significantly. You can see that there's a red number of 42,000. That's the net cost of the contingency to continue to keep the budget the same, but I lowered the contingency by that like amount to cover the PERS increases. You also have a big increase or a decrease in contingencies in behavioral health and in management services. Those are your other two funds that have large quantities of monies. You also had a reduction in contingency for public health also. Overall, that 2.5% is going to generate about $800,000 this fiscal year. And we will put that money into a dedicated fund. We will do that the following year. So you'll have approximately $1.6 to $1.65 million in that fund 2 years from now. And we will then disperse that back to the departments on the percentage that they contributed to it to cover the future PERS increases, which I guarantee will be in the at least 4% then, because their returns are not going to be as good as they were this time around. Whether they increase it up to 5 or 6, don't know. They get a lot of heat when they go above 5%. So it should cover us or almost cover us completely on the PERS increase. So you don't have these big impacts along every 2 years. By that time, a 5% increase for us is going to be $1.5 to $1.6 million. So this should almost balance and make it. So taking a little at this time, especially when I think we're fiscally pretty healthy in a lot of those departments, is the time to do it so they don't have to down the road make up that kind of money. So those are the modifications in that. Overall, it increases the general fund budget, or the county budget by $889,000. There's $800,000 for the new PERS fund. There's $75,000 that occurred in health services. There's $10,000 that occurred in the juvenile program for the additional transfer. And then there's $3,000, I think, in dog control and $1,000 in marine patrol. Those are the impacts to get you to the $889,000 increase in the overall budget. Pages after this are all the pages that technically got affected. You can see that the new line item we created was 8115, which is the PERS assessment. And it wasn't in the proposed or the tentatively approved, so I just added it to the recommended for approval. So with that, I would recommend that you formally approve the budget as presented. And then your secondary assignment will be to, and probably most important, is to set the tax rate, which in this case, I'm recommending at 1.716, which is the county's permanent rate, to assess that amount. And then the 49.5 cents for the new public safety levy, which effectively passed last night. I know the election is not certified, but statistically it's impossible for it not to pass. So I would recommend levying that full amount of the new 49.5 cents. So that's my presentation. If you have questions, be more than happy to answer any of them, if I can. I hope I can.
Thank you for all your hard work on this, Mr. Hanson. We appreciate your diligence, your wisdom, and your judgment serve the county well, and we appreciate all that you do for the county. Any questions? Hearing none, it's time for public comment. We'll limit each comment to 5 minutes so that we can accommodate everybody. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment at this time? There appears to be no commenters. Are there any motions for the committee to hear at this time?
I move that we approve the 2023 to 2024 budget as outlined by Mr. Hanson in the process that he just went through.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. The budget passes unanimous, or the motion passes unanimously. Are there further motions?
I would move to adopt the recommendation of a general fund tax rate of $1.716 per thousand and a public safety operating levy tax rate of 49.5 cents per thousand.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Further discussion? Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. There's no further business of the committee. The meeting is adjourned.